Well, as Saturday morning continues, so does Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, that's right. Hour number 2 of Clubhouse Chatter on this beautiful Saturday morning. The Saturday before, I think, the greatest holiday we have. Well, I like Christmas, but 4th of July is probably my favorite. Baseball and fireworks, you know. And so our next guest is Vada Pinson III, and he's going to talk about his dad, Vada Jr., who, you know, we're going to make a case today of why he should be in the Hall of Fame. And so, Vada, how you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be on the show.
Good. You know, and you and I have talked about this for a while, a couple of years, and so finally I'm glad, you know, we're able to work out and, you know, and get you on the show to talk about your dad. And your dad mainly was known as a Cincinnati Red. He played with the Angels. Let's see, the Angels. Who else did he play for? The Angels and...
the St. Louis Cardinals. He played a year with the Cardinals.
Right.
The Indians, the Angels,
and
he closed out his career with the Royals.
Right. And so he had an 18-year career from 1958 to 1975. And I was checking out his stats last night, you know. I think there's a case for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You know, he had great career stats. And so we're going to chat about that a little bit. And, you know, my first, you know, question for you is growing up, what was it like growing up the son of a Major League Baseball player and a pretty prominent one at that?
Well, I think as a child, I don't know if you can speak to everybody, but I know I was even speaking with Leo Carter when we were growing up as kids. You know, you really don't even think about it because,
right.
You know, I didn't even realize that I was hanging around Frank Robinson and, you know, Pete Rose and all of those guys as children. And, you know, it was kind of, I thought it was just being a normal lifestyle. You know, my dad would go away, he'd play baseball, we'd go to the baseball games whichever team he was with. We'd probably go and stay the summer there and then come back and go to school. I felt like it was kind of a regular lifestyle. But then again, it wasn't because, you know, when I tell people, they said, you know, I used to go down in the club. I used to get to go down in the clubhouse as a child. They said, well, wow, that was lucky. You know, you were lucky to get to go down there and be around all the baseball players. And now that I think about it, I was kind of lucky, you know. I felt like it was normal, though.
And so we're talking about Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Frank Robinson, you know, and it goes on. So why do you think your dad should be, you know, besides his numbers? I mean, you look at his numbers, he had good career numbers. I think he hit he had a career average of, 283, I believe?
286.
286.
One of the things I think that really makes him stand out a lot is that you look at all the stats and you have to combine them together. You look at, he had 2,757 hits. But then you have to look at the one stat that sticks out to me. Somebody actually brought this to my attention. It was a long time ago, where my dad had over 2,500 hits. He had over 305 stolen bases. He had over 250 home runs. And if you look at those numbers and you can only count probably on a couple of hands how many major leaguers have those stats.
Right.
You know, and that's not a lot. And, you know, I have to sit there and I have to wonder. But, you know, I really don't wonder, because baseball is it's a different sport, you know, and the times were different when my dad played. And, you know, and he was really overshadowed by Frank Robinson, you know, when he played with the Reds. So, you know, I think that one day he'll get in, but, you know, realize the stats are pretty outstanding. But then you have to look at, they just put Pete Rose into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. I was like, you know, it kind of doesn't make sense. But, you know, that's Major League Baseball.
You know, and that's a totally different argument with Pete Rose. Honestly, you know, I'm kind of on the fence with Pete. there's no doubt about Pete was one of the greatest players of all time. There's no doubt about that. He's the all-time hits leader. And with that said, that part of it, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. But then comes the gambling. In every clubhouse you go into in the United States, it states no gambling, and it's a big no-no. And part of me says induct Pete in, but part of me says, I don't know if he's learned his lesson. But one, who am I to judge to put the jury out on that? I don't get a vote. And but your dad, on the other hand, I think he belongs, and I know the benchmark is 3,000 hits, but he came pretty darn near close. 2,700 hits, over 2,700 hits. That's a good career. It's a great career.
That is. Yeah, it's a great career. And I think that, when you look at his stats and you look at all the baseball players today, you have to wonder. I was like, I actually had to wonder. After my dad passed, I think that was the most he got in Hall of Fame votes, and it was right after he passed. And ever since then, it seems like he's a forgotten soul. But even then, I try and do a lot of more because I've grown up as a child. I really didn't start paying attention to the game a lot until when he got with the Indians, and I started. I said, well, okay. And even then, I was still a child. I didn't even realize that my dad had 2,757 hits. When I was growing up, and then as I started getting all these. I do a Google search for him where I get all the information that comes up. And my dad is compared to a lot of the baseball players today these are guys that are making like $4 and $5, $10 million.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing. I was like, wow, and I was like, look at this. I was like, well, when you compare my dad to all these guys with all these other stats, and I think that one day he'll get in. I think that it's just going to take a little while where somebody, hopefully, like guys like Frank Robinson and Pete, or even Pete spoke about my dad in his induction speech with the Reds.
Right.
And that was a great thing. And when I look at it, and I say, every time I look at his numbers, and everybody wants to say, why isn't your dad in the Hall of Fame? And I think that one of the things that might have to do with it is that the sports writers have a big thing. My dad actually, really young in his career, actually got into a fight with one of the writers, a guy named Earl Lawson. And I don't know if that really has a big a thing in regards to why he didn't get in. But I think that that's possibly could be one of the things. I really don't know.
You look at the player today. So your dad, let's compare him to the players of today. So your dad hit for a fairly high average, 286 in his career. He also could hit the long ball. So he had some pop in his bat. He played great defense, won one Gold Glove, I believe, or maybe two.
Yes. He has one Gold Glove in 1961, and that's when they actually went to the World Series. And he had 2 All-Star appearances. He led the league in hits in 1961 and 63. And can you imagine? Look at that time period in 1961. We're talking 1960. That's when Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, and all these other guys were playing baseball. So and it's amazing that that he kind of overlooked at that point when you see he was playing. He was actually playing. I think it was the best time to play baseball. Were you playing against the legends?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And man, he was a threat to steal bases as well. And so I think I saw to where he earned I think $65,000 to $68,000 was his top paycheck when he was playing.
Yeah, I pulled up one of his contracts that I actually have one of his contracts where I looked it up and I was like, wow. A lot of people don't even realize, because I know a lot of people say, oh, you have money. I said, do you know that you need to know the history of baseball? Back in the time period when my dad was playing, a lot of those guys had 2 jobs. One was playing baseball, and it was another part where they had another job, and you weren't really going to be making any really decent money unless you were like one of the superstars on the team, And I think, that was the most I think my dad ever made was around $68,000. But during that time period, that was decent. That was pretty good.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah, but if you look at now, what these guys are making, it kind of blows your mind that, they're getting all this money, and you look at their batting averages. I think about my dad's batting average today at 286. How much my dad would have made if he played in today's game? It would be interesting to know.
It would be. I have no doubt that he could have competed. Hey, batting, doing what he did in the time era that he was in, and you hit it right on the head. Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente. He played with, some of the greatest of the greatest, in baseball, and he won a couple of batting titles amongst those men, and you don't hear about your dad as much as you should.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I know that a lot of, if you ever come on my Facebook page, I know I have a lot of, on my dad's fans, I actually talk about they're in Ohio where, I don't, I kind of feel like the Cincinnati Reds have even forgot about my dad. They're always talking about, I read an article just recently about they're trying to think about playing a bobblehead. They mentioned my dad's name. So I was hoping that maybe one day that would be interesting to see if they got a bobblehead out there for my dad. That would be nice, sweet, to see if that would actually ever happen. So I don't think he's forgotten, because if you saw the fan page that I have on my Facebook page, wow, a lot of people stand by my dad, and I love it. Some of those guys have been with me for a really long time on my page, and I love that. A lot of those guys are real. Those baseball fans from back in the 60s, where some of the guys remember meeting my dad, and even some of the guys that met my dad even when my dad was coaching, because he coached for a long time too. Also, so he coached with Sparky Anderson with the Tigers, and he was on that first ever Florida Marlins team when they first came out.
That's right.
So, he did a lot, and I think one of the things about my dad was he wanted to. I think that one of the things he really wanted to manage a team, but he never got the opportunity because he died at a really early age. He died when he was 67 years old back in 1995. So, but I think that he has a career that stands out. When you think about, playing baseball, getting drafted out of high school, out of McCormick High School in Oakland, and then being able to play baseball for 18 years, and then be able to coach too, that's not like a dream come true, for some people,
And he played with the Reds, who, are one of the more iconic teams of, in Major League Baseball. You've got the Yankees, you've got the Reds, you've got the Dodgers. The Reds have been around for a long time, and he was part of some very good ball teams, and even the playing for the Indians as well. If your dad was alive today and I was to ask him what was the highlight of his career, what do you think the answer would be?
I think it probably would be playing. I would have to say probably playing when he first started off with the Reds. Because there he got to go to a World Series, even though they didn't perform well with the Reds. I think, just being that 1961 season that he had when he had a Gold Glove, and man, can you imagine the batting averages that he had that year for 343? His batting average in 1961 was 343.
Wow.
And and I was like, wow. Every time I look at that one stat, 343, who does that in 1961? Even though they lost the World Series that year, that's something that's because if you look at this batting average in 1959 was 316, 1961 was 343, and then when I was born, 1963, 313, and then in 1965 he got his 305. That's 4 good solid years with the Reds, and that's you don't hear if you look at the major leaguers today, a lot of those guys are around 280, 290, and but that's something right there. 4 solid years of batting over 300. We would hope that will put him over the top, but it's not. But because a lot of people will always say that my dad he's borderline Hall of Fame, and I understand that argument. but I still have to go with, he played in 2,461 games where he had 2,757 hits, 256 home runs, 1,356 runs batted in. I'm sorry, runs. That's how many times he scored.
Mm-hmm.
Runs batted in. He had 1,170. Stolen bases, 305, and that, gives you the 286 lifetime batting average. So, one of these days, I'm hoping that, the Cooperstown will call him, before I go to see my dad. That's funny.
Those are pretty good numbers. And didn't he finish like third in the MVP balloting in 1961 as well?
Yes.
And
That was shocking to me. That's another argument I have. I think that my dad should have been up higher at that point in time, especially for that year, because I think Frank Robinson won the MVP that year, and I was like, well, how can you, that's how I feel like they overshadowed my dad. I'm sorry, I think not Frank Robinson, but it was Roberto Clemente, and I remember there's this one stat that sticks out to me where I know there was an argument where they pulled Roberto Clemente out of those last couple of games when my dad and them were competing for the in 1961, where they were competing to go to the World Series. So they kept my dad in, and my dad's average actually dropped.
Right.
So that put him over the top. So, but they said that's normal, where that they could take a player out just to hold out to that average. So. I'm not going to. Roberto Clemente was an awesome baseball player. I love his stats. Like my father, he actually left us too soon also.
So, man, the more I talk, the more we talk, the more I kind of lean about him being in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he had great career numbers, and why not? Why not? Now, is he in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame now?
Oh, definitely, yeah. My dad's been in there for a really long time. He's been in the Reds Hall of Fame for a really long time already, and he's actually in the Bay Area Hall of Fame,
right?
Here in California, and he's actually in the Hall of Fame where he first started out down there in Vallejo, California. And if they go to my Facebook page, you'll see I have all the plaques. I have all the plaques.
Yep.
Those are like both the A's games. You'll see that one plaque where he was inducted into the Bay Area Hall of Fame, and I really like that one because I actually got to attend that one, and it was really, a lot of people noticed that, and I was like, well, hopefully one of these days that he'll get that calling, and I'll be able to rest in peace, because my dad, he says that if he ever made it to the Hall of Fame, that he would talk for a very long time, for the amount of time that they made him wait. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get up there and do that for him.
So, as his son, what do you think? What is your favorite part about your dad's legacy? Do you have like a favorite moment of his? And I'm sure that you've seen games and watching clips and stuff like that. Do you have a favorite moment?
I actually, because as a child, I wasn't really watching the game until I actually got older, and I actually got to watch some of the clips. I watched some of the black and white clips of him now, and I'm thinking that as a baseball player, I really respect his baseball career, because if you look at the time in which he played baseball, it's a totally different game now for them.
Right.
Because my dad was growing up. He was an African American, and I felt like he really couldn't play the game the way that he really wanted to, because of I think Earl Lawson actually placed in one of his that actually got him and my dad going back and forth, was where they stated that my dad should butt more because of all the speed that he had. But my dad really didn't have the opportunity to make that decision because he was just doing what they were telling him to do, the coaches.
Right.
And I think that the biggest thing for me about his baseball career is that, I hear a lot of the stories where some of the fans are telling me that they remember watching my dad playing from the field. I had one of them actually tell me that they had guys in the stands actually cursing at him and calling him the N-word, as was roaming center field. And that's big for me because, I'm, just him being an African and being able to take that And and still, you look at my dad, he was a straight professional, and he played baseball.
Right.
And if you talk to him, everybody that I talked to, they said that my dad was just he was a gentleman. And for him to have to be able to go through that like Jackie Robinson did, and and have the type of career he had, that's big for me. That's one of the big things I can take with me. To the grave. I was like, wow, my dad actually played during a time when he wasn't really accepted that well, but he played and he did very well. Because not everybody did that well.
So let's say he is inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I think that this isn't. I think for me it's a cut and dry deal. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame. He goes in as a Cincinnati Red, doesn't he?
Oh, definitely. That's a no-brainer right there.
Yeah.
The Red. That's a no-brainer. That's the only team that he was on. He played 10 solid years, 1958 to 1968. I think that even, I think that our family, we've already talked about that if it ever happens, or who's ever here, or who, when it happens, he would go up under the Cincinnati Reds.
Now, do you have any of his memorabilia left?
Oh yeah. I have like right now, I have his chain on it. Ever since my dad passed, he had this baseball chain, and it has VP28. And it is something that's actually been on me. It hasn't come off me in a really long time. So
that's got to be your favorite piece, then.
Yeah, that's my favorite piece. Because every time I look at that, it makes me think of because I have a lot of his baseball pictures, and I see it around his neck when he was actually coaching, and that's big. Because I think every baseball player has that one piece of something that they really treasure, and I think that's mine because it's never come off my neck since my dad passed me.
Wow. So now, did you play growing up as yourself?
Yeah, I played, but you know what? It's a different when you're growing up and you're the son of a Major League Baseball player. I guess it's not kind of easy. It's not easy at all because they always think that, hey, I think I had speed and I was really, really good, but actually, I think my downfall was because I went to Catholic school and playing in. Going to Catholic school, I was the only one that could reach home plate, so I pitched a lot, and I was always throwing straight fastballs as a kid. Kind of ruined my arm as a child because I always like to hear that big pop of the mitt, and I remember my arm was always hurting, and then I remember one time I just said, "What are you throwing?" And he said, "I said I'm just throwing straight fastballs every pitch." I was with my dad actually talked to the coach. I said, hey, my dad actually didn't tell me how to play baseball until at a certain point, and I kind of threw my arm on. I didn't ever want to be just just a pinch hitter, because I think I could hit, but being a pinch hitter, that wasn't something for me, because even now today when I throw the baseball around, my arm still kind of hurts. It has a little twinge to it, so I don't think I would have been much of a ball player in the Major League. That's just a pinch hitter.
So where can we go to drum up support for your dad to get him into the Hall of Fame?
Well, you can come to my Facebook page at Vada Pinson III. You'll see my page. I have a picture of me and my little one in my baseball uniform, and go to Vada Pinson Hall of Fame on Facebook and just ask to join there, and I'll put you in the group, and for everybody that wants to get in, and join the ride, and we have a lot of baseball discussions there, where a lot of people they put in their input, and they'll say why they think my dad's why he shouldn't be in, and just come on in from Vada Pinson III, and I'll accept you.
So one last question for you. So out of all the baseball cards that your dad were on, do you have a favorite one?
Well, you know what? Because every time, if you see the ones that I have on Facebook, there's one where it was a black and white picture where it looks like it looks like my dad's looking down from heaven, and he's swinging the bat. I love that picture. But then I have some of the baseball cards that I love. For my dad, I have them in my. Not just saying because my dad had a great smile, and the pictures I have up there, I can't just put it on one, but the one that I guess you could say is my favorite, the one that I have on his Facebook page where it looks like he's looking down heaven and he's swinging the bat.
You know, I like the one with the sophomore stalwarts with O'Toole, and he just passed away here not too long ago. Yeah. And you know, looking at that card, you know, that's a great card. I really like that one. And so,
yeah, my dad was really young in that picture.
he is. I love those uniforms. You know, the vest jerseys with the big number on the front and the C on the left part of the chest. And man, they definitely don't make uniforms like they used to.
Yeah, because I still have mine. If you see the picture that I have on Facebook of me and mine, yep. I still have my uniform like that. And it's little. And you see how they made those uniforms. It's like I don't know about it's the quality. I've had that for so long. Out of all the little baseball uniforms, the red uniform is the only one that seemed like it looks still brand new.
Yep. So once again, Vada Pinson III. Vada, hey, thank you for taking time and coming on, and you know, check him out on Facebook, and you know, let's make a push. Let's make a push for your dad to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and let's make it happen.
All right, thank you. I appreciate being on the show. You have a good rest of the day out here. It's sunny out here in California, so have a great day, okay?
All right. Hey, you have a good 4th.
Thank you. You too.
All right, Vada, thank you. Once again, Mr. Vada Pinson III talking about his dad. And, man, Brian, why not? Why not induct him into the Hall of Fame? I know all, you know, the naysayers are going to say, but his numbers weren't good enough. You know, 2,700 hits, that's a lot of hits. 18 years, that's more than a solid career.
Well, I think you add everything together, he's in. He should be in.
So he didn't win a most valuable player. You know, you kind of look at the era he played in. He only got 2 All-Star games out of the deal. And that just shows you how hard it was to be a part of that. I mean, even today, you know, you look at people like Brett Butler, and I don't know if Brett's got numbers, you know, for the Hall of Fame, but I think he only got into like 1 or 2 All-Star games himself.
Do you go by All-Star games? Do you go by numbers? You look at Vada Pinson II. Look what he had to go through when he played.
Numbers. I mean, he played with Frank Robinson, Pete Rose. Are you kidding me?
In a time where, you know, it wasn't a good time for African-American players.
That is true. And we will talk a little bit about that with Johnny Wilson coming up at 12:30. Johnny Wilson was a childhood friend of Carl Erskine's and played with the Harlem Globetrotters and the Chicago American Giants in the Negro Leagues. And we're going to talk a little bit about race relations, I'm pretty sure, with him and growing up and it being tough, you know. I mean, I don't think he got a fair shake. And so, hey, I'm Norm. I'm Brian. That is Brian. I'm Norm. We are Clubhouse Chatter, and we are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like my shirt or my hat, check them out, baseballisms.com. Baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Base by Pros, Mitch Canham, basebypros.com. And his dad, Mark Canham, with MDM Design. He does our Clubhouse Chatter shirts, and check him out. And we stream live at yamhilltoday.com as we get funky. And hey, if you want to sponsor the show, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, 1T on Clubhouse Chatter on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, MLB.com, blogs. I'm Norm. That's Brian. Hey, we'll be back at 11:30 with Alan Yeager of Yeager Sports. Thanks for watching.